The rain hadn't stopped since dawn in El Paso, Texas. The streets shimmered under the glow of neon signs, puddles catching flashes of red and blue from a diner marquee that buzzed faintly like a dying heartbeat. Marta's Family Grill, open 24 hours. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of bacon grease and burnt coffee, the kind of place where time stuck to your skin. At a corner booth, a young woman sat alone. Her name was Lena Morales, 24, with soft brown hair pulled into a messy braid, and a brace locked around her left leg that squeaked every time she shifted. Her eyes, wide, watchful, fragile, carried the quiet exhaustion of someone used to disappearing into corners. The waitress, Marta herself, poured another cup of coffee. "You sure you don't want something warm to eat, honey?" Lena smiled faintly. "Just the coffee. I'm waiting for someone." Outside, thunder rolled across the desert sky. A few truckers huddled by the counter, watching the rain beat against the window like it had something to prove. Then the door swung open, and the kind of silence that only mean people bring filled the room. 3 young men entered, loud with the false confidence of small lives. Locals. One wore a leather jacket despite the heat. Another had a bandage wrapped around his hand. The third, taller and slower, laughed too hard at nothing. They smelled of beer and arrogance. "Hey, look at that," the one in the jacket said, pointing at Lena's leg brace as he swaggered past. "Did the war come to town without telling us?" Lena froze, her hand tightening around her cup. Marta's voice cut sharp across the diner. "Leave her alone, Tommy. You want coffee, sit down. Otherwise get out." But Tommy grinned, the kind of grin that said he liked when people told him no. "Relax, Marta. I'm just being friendly." He leaned closer to Lena's table. "What happened, sweetheart? Trip over your own pity." Lena's voice was soft but steady. "Please don't." The other 2 laughed. The taller one imitated a limp as he walked by. "Man, she's not even trying to hide it." A man at the counter, a traveler maybe, rough beard, heavy coat, shifted slightly but didn't stand. Nobody did. That's how it is in small towns sometimes. Everyone knows each other's ghosts, and nobody wants new ones. Lena gathered her things with trembling hands. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "Excuse me," and tried to stand. The leg brace caught on the edge of the booth, sending her coffee cup tumbling. Hot liquid splashed across the floor. Tommy clapped mockingly. 10 points for the landing. "Out," Marta snapped. "All 3 of you. Out now before I call the sheriff." The men laughed their way to the door, throwing glances back at Lena like they were leaving a joke unfinished. Outside, their truck's headlights sliced through the rain before disappearing down Alameda Avenue. Lena's hands shook as she tried to dry the mess with napkins. Marta knelt beside her. "Don't you mind them, sweetheart. They're trash." Lena nodded but didn't answer. The muscles in her face were stiff, like holding back something that had been buried deep for too long. A black SUV rolled slowly past the diner's fogged windows, then stopped. Its tinted windows reflected the neon sign in broken fragments of red and white. For a brief moment, Lena's reflection appeared beside it, small, ghostly, uncertain. Then the SUV drove on. She didn't see it, but someone inside saw her. 2 hours later, the rain had thinned into a whisper. The diner was nearly empty. Lena had stayed, staring into the last inch of cold coffee. Marta cleaned up the counter, humming faintly to fill the quiet. Then headlights swept across the window again, different this time. Slow, deliberate. The kind of slow that meant power. A convoy of 3 black vehicles stopped in front of the diner. Marta froze mid-wipe. What in the world? Doors opened almost in unison. Men in dark suits stepped out, their silhouettes sharp against the streetlights. One opened the diner door and held it. A man stepped inside tall, with a presence that shifted the air itself. Dark gray suit, silver watch, no expression. The smell of cologne and rain followed him in. Every head turned. He walked straight to Lena's table. His voice was quiet, deep, controlled. "Lena." Her eyes widened. "Miguel." The diner seemed to shrink around them. "Get up," he said softly. "You shouldn't be here alone." Marta blinked, realizing who he was. Not just Miguel. Miguel Navarro. Word around town, though people only whispered it, said his family had roots deeper than the border itself. A man whose silence was worth more than the law's voice. Lena hesitated. I didn't call you. I know. His gaze softened for a brief second. But I heard. He turned toward Marta. 3 men. Local. Names. Marta swallowed hard. Tommy Davis. The others hang around with him. But sir, it's not. Miguel raised a hand, gentle but final. Thank you. He helped Lena to her feet, his hand steadying her trembling arm. There was a quiet reverence in the way he did it, as though she were something breakable, something sacred. Outside, thunder growled again, distant now, like a warning. As he guided her toward the door, Lena whispered, Don't. Please. They're just stupid boys. He looked at her, eyes dark as the storm. Boys grow into men who think they can hurt what they don't understand. I don't forgive that. The men in suits opened the SUV door. Lena hesitated, the rain touching her face in soft, silver drops. She turned back to Marta, who stood behind the counter, pale and speechless. Thank you, Lena said quietly, for standing up. Then she got into the SUV. The vehicles pulled away into the night, their taillights vanishing beyond the wet reflections of the street. Marta stood by the window long after they were gone, heart racing without knowing why. At 3:12 a.m., 3 miles outside of town, Tommy Davis's truck was found abandoned near the riverbank. Engine running, doors open, rain still dripping from the side mirrors. No one inside, and in the middle of the empty driver's seat, a single white napkin from Marta's family grill, folded neatly, with one word written across it in black ink. Respect. The next morning, the desert sun rose over El Paso like nothing had happened. The streets glowed gold, the air already thick with heat. But the calm was a lie. Every whisper in town carried the same name, moving through cafes and truck stops like wildfire. Tommy Davis. By noon, his truck had been towed from the riverbank. No sign of him or his friends. Sheriff Harmon called it a matter under investigation, but everyone knew what that meant. When people vanished near the border, questions had a way of losing their echo. Inside Marta's family grill, the coffee machine hissed, and the morning crowd avoided eye contact. Only Marta's eyes darted constantly to the door. She hadn't slept. She kept hearing that word in her head, respect, written in Miguel Navarro's steady hand. Lena hadn't come in all morning. Marta felt the absence like a missing heartbeat. On the other side of town, behind an iron gate on the edge of the Franklin Mountains, the Navarro estate stood like a fortress made of silence and stone. Sunlight struck the mirrored windows, reflecting the world away. Inside, everything smelled of cedar, leather, and control. Lena sat in a wide armchair in the living room, a blanket over her knees. Her hair was loose, damp from a shower. She looked smaller in the vast room, framed by shadows and expensive art. Miguel stood by the window, his suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was calm, almost too calm. Nothing permanent, he said into the phone. They'll remember, but they'll walk. A pause. Yes, that's enough. He hung up and turned. You haven't touched your food. Lena looked down at the untouched plate of eggs on the table beside her. I'm not hungry. Lena. His tone softened. You need to eat. She stared at him. You can't just fix everything with fear. He met her eyes, dark, unreadable. No, but I can make sure no one touches you again. That's not protection, she whispered. That's power. He didn't answer. He just walked toward her slowly, his steps echoing on the marble floor. You know what they called you, what they did. I won't let anyone treat you like that. Not after everything you've survived. Her throat tightened. The memory of the accident flashed again. The rain, the headlights, the scream, the shattering of glass. The reason her left leg would never bend right again. And Miguel, the man who'd held her in the hospital, who'd paid for every surgery, who'd sat in the waiting room like a shadow that refused to leave. Why do you still care? She asked. It's been 2 years. Because you're the only thing left that makes me human. The words hit her like a pulse. His voice cracked on the last syllable, barely noticeable but enough. She looked away, blinking fast. You're not human when you decide who deserves to disappear. He kneeled in front of her, resting his hand on the brace around her leg. Slow, reverent, like a prayer. You think I don't know guilt? His voice was low now, trembling just slightly. Every night I hear the ones I couldn't save. The men I buried. The ones who begged me to stop before I did what I had to do. She pulled her leg back gently, her chest tightening. You're not saving anyone, Miguel. You're just collecting ghosts. For a long moment, the only sound was the desert wind brushing against the tall windows. Then he stood and turned away, his shoulders tense. I'll have someone take you home this evening, he said quietly. She nodded, though her heart ached with something she couldn't name. Anger, maybe. Or love twisted into something darker. At dusk, she returned to her small apartment downtown. The elevator was broken again, so she climbed the stairs slowly, her brace clicking against the metal steps. She unlocked the door, dropped her bag, and exhaled. The place smelled of paint and rain. She'd left the window cracked open. On the kitchen counter lay a white envelope. No name, just sealed and heavy. Her pulse quickened. She opened it carefully. Inside were photographs, black and white, grainy. 3 men, blindfolded, kneeling in what looked like an old warehouse. And on the back of each photo, a time stamped in red ink, 3:12 a.m. She dropped them, her hands trembling. That was the time. The exact time the sheriff said the truck was found. A wave of nausea rose through her. She stumbled back, grabbing the counter to steady herself. She knew what this meant. Miguel hadn't just scared them. He had someone watching her, tracking every detail, and leaving messages in her own home. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered, her voice unsteady. Who is this? A pause. Then a man's voice, smooth and slow, with a faint Mexican accent. Señorita Morales, I'm sorry you had to see those. Her blood ran cold. Who are you? Just a friend of Mr. Navarro's. I only wanted you to know how far he'll go for you. Lena's hand trembled so hard the phone nearly slipped. Don't ever contact me again. The line went dead. Outside, the streetlights flickered, and somewhere far away a siren wailed through the evening air. Later that night, she found herself standing by her window, staring at the city below. She thought about leaving El Paso, packing a bag, disappearing to somewhere with no borderlines, no ghosts. But something inside her whispered that running wasn't freedom. Not when someone like Miguel could find her anywhere. Her phone buzzed again. A message this time. Miguel, did you get home safe? She stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply. Finally, she typed, Lena, you can't protect me like this. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. She sank into the couch, tears pressing behind her eyes. Outside, the storm had returned, faint lightning crawling over the distant mountains, silent and slow. She closed her eyes, hearing again the echo of his voice in the diner, the way he'd said her name like it was something he'd lost long ago. And then, faintly, from the street below, a car engine idling. She looked through the blinds. The same black SUV sat under the flickering streetlight, motionless. Someone was watching her. She whispered into the darkness, What have you done, Miguel? The thunder answered for him, a low, distant rumble that seemed to carry the weight of everything unsaid. And somewhere miles away, in a cold warehouse on the outskirts of town, a door creaked open. A shadow moved between the silent figures on the floor. 3 men who had once laughed too loudly in a diner. One of them groaned softly, alive but broken. The shadow spoke to someone unseen. He said to leave one breathing, so she'll know he's merciful. A match flared. Smoke rose, and the flame revealed a wall, marked with a single word scrawled in black paint. Her. Morning came gray and restless, the kind of sky that made even the desert feel suffocated. The news spread faster than the wind. 3 men found alive on the outskirts of El Paso, barely conscious, tied up near an abandoned packing plant. No one knew who brought them there. No one asked why. Sheriff Harmon stood before the cameras, sweat on his temples, the brim of his hat shadowing his eyes. It looks like a warning, he said, but from who we can't say. In truth, everyone could say. They just didn't dare to. Lena hadn't slept. She sat in her apartment with the blinds drawn, watching the morning light crawl slowly across the floor. Her mind kept replaying that moment in the diner, the look in Miguel's eyes before he said, "I heard." The weight of it, the inevitability of it. She turned on the TV for noise. The reporter's voice was steady but tense. Victims were reportedly unharmed, except for superficial injuries. The word "her" was found painted on one of the walls. Her stomach turned. She muted the sound and buried her face in her hands. A knock at the door. Her whole body went rigid. Another knock, this time softer. "Lena, it's Marta." Relief flooded through her chest. She opened the door to find Marta standing there, holding a paper bag. "I brought breakfast. You look like you haven't eaten in days." "I haven't," Lena admitted. Marta stepped in, setting the bag on the counter. "I saw the news. Lord help us, this town's cursed. They said those boys were barely breathing. You don't think—" "Don't say it," Lena whispered. Marta hesitated, studying her. "You're scared of him." Lena didn't answer. Marta sat across from her, folding her hands. "I saw how he looked at you that night, like he'd burn the world if it touched you." Lena's eyes welled. "He already has." Later that afternoon, Miguel's car appeared outside her building again. She tried not to look, but the reflection of the tinted window in her living room glass was impossible to ignore. Then her phone buzzed. "Miguel, we need to talk. Dinner. My place. 8 o'clock. She typed and deleted the word "no" 3 times before finally replying. "Lena, fine." The truth was, she wanted answers more than she wanted safety. At 8:07, she stood before the iron gate again, dressed in simple jeans and a dark blue sweater. Her brace gleamed under the soft lights of the driveway. The guard opened the gate without asking questions. Miguel greeted her at the door. No suit tonight, just a black shirt and rolled sleeves. He looked tired, like the night had followed him home. "Come in," he said quietly. She stepped inside. The house was silent except for the hum of an old record playing somewhere distant, a slow, mournful jazz tune that filled the air like memory. He led her to the dining room. 2 plates, one untouched. Candles flickered against the glass. "I don't want this," she said before sitting. "I didn't invite you for dinner," he replied. "I invited you for truth." She crossed her arms. "Then tell me what you did." He exhaled slowly, his gaze fixed on the tablecloth. "I didn't kill them." "That's not denial," she said. "That's semantics." His eyes lifted to hers. "You think I wanted this? That I wake up hungry for blood? I built this empire, this name, to protect what I love from the kind of men who think they can touch it. And when they hurt you—" "They didn't hurt me," she snapped. "They mocked me. It was cruel, but it wasn't worth—" "It was enough," he interrupted softly. The silence that followed was suffocating. She could hear the faint crackle of the record needle, the distant hum of desert wind through the vents. "You've always done this," she said finally, her voice shaking. "Turned everything into a battlefield, even love." Miguel looked away, jaw tightening. "Love is war when you've lost everything else." Her breath caught. "You think this is love?" He stood abruptly, walking to the window. "Do you know what they called me before all this?" he asked. "El Silencio, the one who never speaks. Because I learned early that words mean nothing if you can't protect what they name." He turned back to her. "And I named you, Lena, in every quiet moment of my life, since the night of your accident." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're not saving me. You're owning me." He took a step forward, then stopped. Something shifted in his expression, a flicker of regret, of clarity. "Maybe you're right." She didn't know what to say. He reached into his pocket and placed something on the table. A small silver locket. She recognized it immediately. It had been in the car the night of her accident. "I kept it," he said. "I thought it would remind me of what I almost lost. But now I think it's what's been keeping me chained to the past." He opened his hand, revealing a folded photograph inside the locket, a picture of her before the crash, smiling under a sunset. Lena's throat tightened. "Why show me this now?" "Because I can't keep doing this," he said. "And because someone else is coming for me. For us." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He walked back to the window, pulling the curtain slightly aside. The men who took orders last night, they weren't mine. The words hit her like a cold wind. What? He turned, eyes heavy with something between fear and defiance. Someone used my name. Someone who wants me to burn for it. Those pictures you got, they weren't meant as a warning. They were a message. Her pulse quickened. From who? I don't know yet. But they know about you. They know I'll protect you, no matter the cost. Her voice trembled. Then you have to let me go. He shook his head slowly. If I do, they'll find you first. Miguel, I'm not asking, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I'm telling you what comes next. She took a step back, heart pounding. And what's that? He looked at her like a man who'd already seen his own end. War. That night, long after she left his house, Lena drove aimlessly through the desert roads, her headlights slicing through the dark. The radio played static. Her hand shook against the steering wheel. Her phone vibrated again, an unknown number. A text this time. Unknown, he's lying. You're not the victim. You're the key. She stared at it, cold creeping into her spine. Another message arrived seconds later. Unknown. Ask him about your accident. Her breath caught. The headlights blurred through her tears as the words replayed in her mind. Ask him about your accident. The crash. The night everything began. The night Miguel found her. Her hands tightened on the wheel. The desert wind screamed outside, carrying the scent of rain and dust. And in that hollow stretch of Texas highway, Lena whispered to herself, What are you hiding, Miguel? Far behind her, unseen in the rearview mirror, a pair of headlights followed at a steady distance, never closer, never farther, like a shadow that refused to let go. The desert didn't sleep that night. The wind howled like something wounded, sweeping through the empty highways outside El Paso. Lena drove until the lights of the city were nothing but a faint orange bruise on the horizon. Her thoughts came in fragments. The diner, the boys, the word her, and that text message still glowing on her phone, like a warning she couldn't unsee. Ask him about your accident. The words clung to her mind like smoke. By the time she turned back toward town, the sky was paling into a bruised dawn. She stopped at a small gas station just off Route 62, her legs stiff from driving. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed. The air smelled of coffee and motor oil. The clerk, a quiet kid in a hoodie, barely looked up. Rough night. She forced a smile. Something like that. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Unknown, you deserve the truth. 11 p.m., 3:15, Valle Verde Road. Come alone. Her breath hitched. She didn't recognize the address, but her gut twisted the way it always did before something irreversible. That evening, she called Miguel. He answered on the first ring. You're not safe, he said immediately. Someone's moving against me. You need to stay inside. Who's moving against you? She asked. A pause. A man named Salazar. He used to work for my father. He's been waiting for a reason to take what's mine. And me. Miguel hesitated. You're the reason. The way he said it made her stomach knot. Then tell me the truth, she whispered. What really happened the night of my accident? Silence. Then, very quietly, don't go looking for ghosts, Lena. You won't like what they remember. He hung up. Her heart thudded painfully. At 10:57 p.m., she stood outside a weather-beaten warehouse at the edge of the industrial district, 315 Valle Verde. The same address from the text. Only the moon lit the gravel yard, and the faint smell of rust and rain hung in the air. Her hands trembled as she pushed the door open. It groaned, echoing into the hollow dark. Inside, a single light bulb swung from the ceiling. The air was thick with dust and something metallic. A voice rose from the shadows. You shouldn't have come alone. She froze. A man stepped into the light, older, tall, wearing a leather jacket, his face marked by deep scars and a calm that was somehow worse than rage. Who are you? She demanded. He smiled faintly. My name doesn't matter, but I used to know Miguel very well. Her pulse raced. You're Salazar. He nodded. So he told you about me. Good. That saves time. What do you want from me? I want you to stop believing in fairy tales, he said softly. You think Miguel saved you that night? You think the crash was an accident? The room tilted. What are you talking about? Salazar stepped closer. He was supposed to meet someone that night, a man who crossed him. You were driving the wrong road at the wrong time. The truck that hit you, it wasn't random. It was his men. Lena felt the air leave her lungs. You're lying. Am I? He pulled something from his pocket, a small, scratched USB drive. Everything's on here. His orders. The call that sent that truck into your lane. She shook her head violently. No, he was there after the crash. Yes, Salazar said, because guilt is the only language he knows. You were never a victim, Lena. You were the price of his mistake. And now he keeps you close, so you never find out. Her vision blurred. Her hands trembled, so hard she could barely hold the drive as he pressed it into her palm. Why tell me this? She whispered. Because he's planning something worse. He thinks I'm the enemy, but the truth is, I just want to end the blood before he starts another war. She stepped back, her heart pounding so loud it filled the space. I don't believe you. Salazar's eyes softened, almost pitying. You will. He nodded toward the door. Go, before his men find you here. She didn't wait. She ran, limping through the gravel, the brace clanging against her knee. The night air sliced her lungs. When she reached her car, she saw it. Headlights in the distance, moving fast. Black SUVs. Miguel's. Her body tensed. She started the engine, tires screaming as she sped down the dirt road, dust rising behind her like smoke. The headlights followed. Her phone rang. Miguel. She answered through tears. Why didn't you tell me? Lena, where are you? Tell me the truth, she shouted. Whatever you heard, it's not what you think. You're in danger. No, you're the danger. A gunshot cracked through the air. The sound was close, too close. The back window shattered. Lena, he shouted through the phone. Stop the car. But she kept driving. The desert road twisted sharply, gravel spitting under the tires. Her brace slammed against the door, pain shooting through her leg. Another shot. Sparks flashed against the trunk. Then she saw it. A flicker of headlights from the other direction. Another vehicle, cutting across the sand. Salazar's men, trapped between two shadows. She slammed the brakes. The car fishtailed, spinning before stopping in a cloud of dust. Through the haze, she saw them both, Miguel stepping out of the SUV, gun drawn, and Salazar emerging from the other side. Calm, steady, weapon holstered. Miguel's voice was thunder. Step away from her. Salazar raised his hands. She knows, Miguel. She knows everything. Lena stepped out slowly, the USB drive clenched in her fist. Is it true? She asked. Her voice cracked. Miguel's expression shattered. That flicker of pain too human to fake. You can't believe him. He said the crash wasn't an accident. It was a mistake, Miguel said. Mine. I tried to stop it. I swear to you, I tried. Tears blurred her vision. You killed my future, Miguel. I gave you my life to make up for it, he said, stepping closer, desperate. Every breath I've taken since that night was for you. Salazar's voice cut through the storm. He's not sorry, Lena. He's obsessed. And obsession kills everything it touches. She looked between them. Two men, two versions of truth, and the weight of years pressing down on her chest. Give me the drive, Miguel said softly. Please, before this gets worse. Lena looked at him, really looked. The man who had carried her from the wreck. The man who had whispered her name like a prayer. The man who had built an empire from ashes and silence. And suddenly she knew. If she handed it over, the cycle would never end. But if she didn't, neither of them might survive the night. The wind howled through the desert. Lightning flashed far in the distance. Her voice broke. I'm done being your reason for war. She threw the USB drive into the dirt, hard. Both men turned toward it instinctively. That's when the gunfire began. Blinding flashes. Screams drowned by the storm. The sound of chaos, sharp and merciless. Lena dropped to the ground, covering her head, the brace twisting painfully. When the shooting stopped, the silence was deafening. She looked up. Salazar was gone. Miguel was kneeling in the dirt, blood on his shoulder, breathing hard. He looked at her through the haze of smoke and dust. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered. Tears streaked her face. "Neither should you." He tried to stand, but his knees gave out. "Go," he rasped. "They'll come back." She hesitated, her heart torn between fury and grief. Then she turned and ran, into the darkness, into the storm, into a future she could no longer see. Behind her, Miguel's voice drifted faintly through the wind. "Lena, forgive me." The thunder swallowed the rest. At dawn, the desert was quiet again. Smoke rose faintly from the wrecked SUVs. No bodies. No signs of the men. Only tire tracks vanishing toward Mexico. And in the dirt, half buried near a bloodstained locket, the USB drive glimmered in the pale morning light, untouched, waiting. The sun rose heavy and merciless over El Paso. The desert shimmered with heat, swallowing the wreckage from the night before. By mid-morning, there was nothing left but a smear of dust, blood, and silence, the kind that follows only after something irreversible. Lena woke in a motel off Interstate 10, the kind with flickering vacancy signs and thin walls that smelled of bleach. Her leg throbbed. Dried blood stained the edge of her jeans. The events of the night came back in flashes, gunfire, lightning, Miguel's voice dissolving into the storm. She pulled herself upright, grimacing. Her phone lay on the nightstand, shattered screen blinking with one unread message. No sender. He's alive. Her stomach twisted. She didn't know whether to feel relief or terror. She reached for her backpack and found the USB drive still there. She hadn't thrown it far enough last night. Or maybe fate had thrown it back. By noon, she was sitting in a small public library, a place that smelled of paper and air conditioning and the faint desperation of people looking for escape. She slipped the USB into a computer. Her hands trembled as she clicked the folder labeled 12.19, Night Report. An audio file. She pressed play. Static, then a man's voice, Miguel's. Calm, deliberate, professional. Convoy will depart at 19:30 hours. Target is en route to the border. Vehicle, white sedan, plates ending in 416. Do not engage unless signaled. Her heart stuttered. White sedan. 416, that had been her car. Then another voice, faint in the background. Understood. Should we make it look like an accident? Miguel, if necessary. She covered her mouth, shaking. The recording clicked off. The silence that followed was unbearable. He had ordered it. Not her death, maybe, but the hit that became her destruction. Her world collapsed inward. Outside, the heat pressed down like punishment. She walked aimlessly through the sun-baked streets, the USB clutched in her fist. Her thoughts blurred into one aching pulse. He destroyed me, and then he built himself around the ruins. She stopped at a small church at the edge of town. The doors were open, the air inside cool and still. A few candles flickered near the altar. She sat in the back pew, her brace clicking softly as she knelt. I don't even know if you're real, she whispered to whatever might be listening. But if you are, don't let me turn into him. A faint creak came from behind her. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Lena. Her body froze. She turned. Miguel stood at the doorway, his shirt bloodstained, his arm wrapped in a bandage. His face looked older, or maybe just emptier. How did you find me? She asked. I never stopped looking, he said. Her voice hardened. You lied to me. He nodded once. I did. Why? He exhaled, stepping into the candlelight. Because if you knew what I'd done, you'd never have let me stay near you. And I couldn't live with that. Her jaw trembled. You sent that truck. He closed his eyes. I sent men to stop someone else. You were on the road they chose. I swear to you, I didn't know it was you until it was too late. You ordered it, she said. I tried to call it off. His voice cracked for the first time. But when the crash happened, I saw what I'd done, and I swore I'd make it right. By owning me, by loving you, he whispered. Her eyes filled with tears. That's not love, Miguel. That's control. He looked at her for a long time, then nodded, a small, broken motion. Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't know the difference anymore. He stepped closer, pain in every movement. But Salazar won't stop until he finishes what he started. He wants you dead, Lena. You have something that can destroy both of us. The recording, she said. He nodded. He wants it erased. He'll burn the city for it. So will you. Miguel smiled faintly, a tired, almost human smile. Maybe that's why I deserve to die. Her breath caught. What are you talking about? He reached into his jacket and placed a small black envelope on the pew beside her. It's everything he's ever done. Names, accounts, routes. Take it to the FBI in Las Cruces. Tell them I'm done. Miguel. He stepped back, his voice breaking. If I stay alive, people die. If I disappear, maybe you finally get to live. She shook her head, tears spilling. You don't get to decide that. I already have, he said softly. He turned toward the door. She rose, stumbling after him. Don't you walk away from me again. He paused at the threshold, sunlight cutting across his face like a blade. I'm not walking away, he said. I'm walking out, so you can walk free. And then he was gone. 3 hours later, a massive explosion tore through the edge of the industrial district. The news called it a gas main failure. The police called it a miracle that no one else was hurt. But Lena knew. She watched the smoke rise from the motel window, her heart hollow and trembling. Somewhere in that blaze, Miguel Navarro had burned himself out of existence, or so the world would believe. She drove north the next morning, the envelope on the passenger seat. She didn't look back until the city was just a shimmer of heat behind her. When she reached Las Cruces, she handed everything over. Names, accounts, evidence. The cycle ended there. Or maybe it didn't. 6 months later, the diner reopened. Marta stood behind the counter, older, quieter, but smiling again. Lena came in every morning for coffee. No brace this time, just a faint limp and a scar she no longer hid. She had started volunteering at a rehab clinic, helping other survivors rebuild. Her eyes still carried the storm, but now there was light behind it. Fragile, real. One afternoon, as she was leaving the diner, a black car slowed across the street. Not an SUV, smaller, unfamiliar. The window rolled down just enough for her to see a hand rest on the steering wheel. A silver watch, the same one Miguel always wore. Her breath caught, but before she could move, the car turned the corner and vanished into the sunlight. She stood there for a long time, heart pounding, unable to tell whether it was relief or heartbreak that flooded through her. Then she smiled, faintly, sadly, and whispered to the empty street, "Goodbye, Miguel." The wind carried her voice away, scattering it across the desert where love and vengeance had once burned together until neither could be told apart. And somewhere, beyond the border's endless stretch of sand, a man with a scar along his shoulder lit a cigarette, watching the sun sink into gold. He murmured to no one, "She's safe." Then he drove on, leaving only dust